Hello out there, Bruno here for Crossroads Guitar Center, and welcome to today's lesson on playing open string dominant 7th chords. This is our third lesson involving chords. Our first lesson involved major chords, our second lesson involved minor chords, and today we're going to learn the dominant 7th chords. So let's jump right into it with our first chord, which is C7 or C dominant 7, which sounds like this. And that's played strumming 5 strings with our third finger on the 3rd fret of the 5th string, our second finger on the 2nd fret of the 4th string, the pinky on the 3rd fret of the 3rd string, our first finger on the 1st fret of the 2nd string, and the 1st string open. And that sounds like this. C7 or C dominant 7. Same thing. The next chord is D7, and that sounds like this. And that's played with the 4th string open, second finger, 2nd fret of the 3rd string, first finger, 1st fret of the 2nd string, and your 3rd finger on the 2nd fret of the 1st string. Strumming 4 strings, D7, D dominant 7, same thing. The next one is going to be E7 or E dominant 7, and that's played with the 6th string open, second finger, 2nd fret, 5th string, 4th string open, first finger on the 1st fret of the 3rd string, and the 2nd and 1st strings open, and you strum all 6. E7. Now, you can keep everything the same and add your pinky to the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. It's just another variation of E7, and you strum all 6 once again. That's E7. The next chord is F7, and like the previous examples of F major and F minor, you have to bar. This time you have to bar 4 strings. So your first finger is going to have to cover the 1st fret of the 4th string, 3rd string, 2nd string, and 1st strings, and your second finger is on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. And you strum 4. Sounds like that, F7. The next chord is G7, and that sounds like this. And that's played with your 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the 6th string, your 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the 5th string, the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings open, and your 1st finger on the 1st fret of the 1st string. Strumming all 6, you get G7. Our next chord, you guessed it, is going to be A7, and that's played with the 5th string open, 2nd finger, 2nd fret, 4th string, 3rd string open, 3rd finger on the 2nd fret of the 2nd string, and the 1st string open. And you strum 5 strings, sounds like that, A7. And the last one's going to be B7. Sounds like this. And that's played with our 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the 5th string, 1st finger on the 1st fret of the 4th string, 3rd finger on the 3rd string, 2nd fret, 2nd string open, and pinky on the 2nd fret of the 1st string. Sounds like this, strumming 5 strings. B7. So now, let's do what we did in the previous lessons. We're going to go through some examples to help you get the movement going and help you to memorize these chords. So the first example is going to be C7 to F7 to C7 to G7 back to C7. So C7, F7, back to C7, G7, and back to C7. Our next example is going to be G7, C7, G7, D7, G7. So G7, example is going to be D7, G7, D7, A7, D7. So D7, G7, D7, A7, D7. Our next example is going to be A7, D7, A7, E7, A7. So A7, example will be E7, A7, E7, B7, E7. So E7, A7, E7, B7, E7. And the last example will cover all 7 dominant 7th chords: F7, C7, G7, D7, A7, E7, B7. So here we go. F7, C7, So good luck with these chords, and we'll see you in the next class here at Crossroads Guitar Center.